product, and we wrote some of the things that we learned in the 15 years and some of the learnings that we have. So we boiled these feedback down into 3 categories. And the first one is people are looking for simplicity. So a common theme about the feedback that we got was that they want assistant automate more tasks, free up my bandwidth so I can focus on activities that matter to me. And the activities that matter to me is content creation. It's not ad optimization, it's not changing the placement of your ads, it's creating content that you want to write about so that you can reach more audience and you can monetize your website. And optimization. Highlight and help me implement opportunities for improvement that I may lack the knowledge or bandwidth to spot myself. So this is another feedback around bandwidth, that publishers don't want to be spending time thinking about how to optimize the ad placements or what kind of formats to use. They want to know what's optimal for their website, and they just want to implement it. And the last one is sustainability. So give me high quality ads that I can rely on as a primary revenue source. A lot of publishers that I talk about, their primary source of revenue is AdSense. And if your AdSense revenue fluctuates over a month, sometimes you might get 50% of what you got last month. It's not a stable source of income. And so we want publishers are looking for sustainable income that they can rely on. And so they want to have consistent revenue on AdSense. So these are the 3 common themes that we saw when we looked at the feedback that we got and some of the talks that we did. These are the common themes. So this is what the product team came back to and then thought about, okay, what we should be building, what kind of products should AdSense be in the future. And the answer is the future of AdSense is automation with machine learning. Machine learning at Google is something that we've been driving, and we want to try to automate as many things as possible so that you as content creators can focus on what you love, which is creating content. So what we mean by automation with machine learning is that these are the things that you might have been doing. If you've been a user for AdSense, before auto ads, you've been doing this. Retagging, so creating new ad units, maybe changing the format. And if you change the size, maybe you have to retag, go to your source code, and then retag the ad units. If you want to do some A/B testing, you may have had to use Google Optimize to set up an A/B test. And there was a lot of tasks that you had to do manually, and if you didn't have technical skills, maybe you had to get some vendor to do the engineering work for you. This is something that we don't think that you should be spending your time on because it's very time consuming, and we want to make sure that we are automating these things as much as possible so that you can spend the time that you are using on ad optimization to content creation. So when we started thinking about, okay, how can we start automating, how can we start optimizing the publishers' ads, we categorized their optimization or automation into 3 categories. The first one is formats, second one is size, and the third one is placements. So what we mean by formats is we want to make sure that you don't have to think about what kind of formats are going to be served on your site. Earlier this year, the AdSense product team made a decision that they were going to remove a feature that allowed you to serve either text ads or display ads. And the reason behind this is because the lines from an advertiser's perspective between text ads and display ads was being blurred. So for advertisers, they were sending elements of like images, they were sending text, they were sending descriptions, and when we render it, it looks as similar as a display ad. And so from a publisher's perspective, there wasn't a lot of difference between display ads and text ads. So to make it simple, to automate it, we made a decision that people shouldn't be focusing on whether they should be serving text ads or display ads. We want to make sure that you have the highest auction pressure and that you were serving the right ads. So in terms of formats, whether you should be serving text ads and display ads, we will do that work for you. Next one is size. And so if you log into your AdSense account right now and you try to create a new ad unit, the default is going to be responsive size. And this is because we don't want you to be thinking about how big the size of your ads should be. Maybe if you worked on the advertiser side, you know that 300 by 250 is a popular ad creative size. But if you don't have that information, we don't want you to be demerited from that. And so we want to make sure that you have all the auction impressions that you should be getting. And so that's why we introduced responsive ads, and that's why we made the default setting of your ads to be responsive size. And what responsive size is that you don't have to think about the size of your creative. You just copy and paste the AdSense tag, and then we will decide what the size is going to be. If we think that a large ad is going to be good for your site, we're going to start with a large one. If we think that a short one is going to be good for your website, we're going to start with a short one. So that's the idea of responsive ads. We don't want you to think about how big the ad should be. We will just decide, and we're dependent on the auction pressure from the advertisers and the space that's available for the ad. Another one for the size is full width responsive ads. So you may not be able to see what the biggest difference is, but then if you look at it on the left side, you see that the ad creative is stretched the entire viewport. Whereas on the right, you have it fixed to the parent div container that you have. If you actually wanted to accomplish this without using full width responsive ads, then it would be pretty hard because it's the parent container that you have to think about, and then if it has a fixed width, then what do you do? And so we just do it on the back end. You don't have to think about it. It's one parameter that is on by default. You can turn it on if you want to. But what's happening is that you serve the ad, and if we think that you should be having full width creative, then we'll just stretch it there. So this is something that we just automated, and you just have it on default. The third one is placements. And so by placements, what we mean is that we don't want you to think about where you should be placing the ads. There's a lot of talk about viewability. There's a lot of talk about advertisers wanting to pay for impressions that were viewed. So ad balance was something that was a feature that was created last year, and it allows you to manually change the coverage. The coverage is the impression over ad requests. So for example, on the left, you have your ad setup. And so let's say the viewability of the top creative is 70%, in the middle is 90%, and at the very bottom, you have a 5% viewability ad creative. Only 5% of the users are looking at that ad, and so you might as well not have it because it's probably not making a lot of money, probably has a very low CTR, and it's not doing any benefits to the users, or to you, or to the advertisers. So by enabling ad balance and saying that I only want the coverage to be maybe 70%, ad balance will reduce the low viewability, and so that users are not seeing that ad, advertisers are not serving the ad that's never seen, and you as a publisher don't have to think about wasting the inventory, wasting the space on your site. And then for placement, of course, we have auto ads. So auto ads automates everything. Automates the size, automates the placement, and automates the formats. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about auto ads and some of the changes that we made recently. It went into full launch last week. So right now, if you log into your AdSense and you click on ads, you'll see that there's a new interface for auto ads. So I'm going to walk you through what are some of the changes that we made and some of the reasonings for why we made those changes. So what did auto ads do in terms of automation is before, when you had manual ads, it wasn't a concept before because this is what you had to do by default. But what happened was that you had to generate an ad tag from the AdSense front end and place it wherever you wanted to. So if you had 3 ads, you would have 3 AdSense tags. Now with auto ads, all you have to do is to place a snippet of code in your head tag, and then all the placements is going to be done for you. So even if you have 10 ads being served on your page, you only have 1 AdSense tag. And we released auto ads last year, February, and we've been running auto ads for about 1.5 years now, and we've heard a lot of feedback. And these are the reflection of the feedback that you gave us, and please keep sending those feedback because this is really a product built for you publishers, and we want to make sure that we're creating products that are going to be meaningful for your website. So the first one, this is the new interface that you're going to be seeing. You click on ads, and this is the default setting. And so So you see a list of your website that you're monetizing, and if you click on the pencil, then you will see a preview of your website. So the biggest feedback that we got was that we have no idea where the ads are going to be placed with auto ads, so I'm scared about turning on auto ads. So we made a preview for you, and you know exactly where the ads are going to be placed. The preview doesn't guarantee that the ads are going to be placed, but these are the only places that auto ads is going to be placing the ads. And so you'll see that there's an ad on the left, and there's an ad within the article, so you know where the ads are potentially going to be placed. And if you don't like that placement, then you have the trash can icon on the creative, and you can just get rid of that. And so you can press the trash can, click on remove, and it's not removed forever, it just stays there, and you can go back if you want to set that creative again. So it just stays there. And then the ad formats. So we heard a lot of feedback that it was difficult to monitor what kind of formats was being served on my page. And so we created a section on the preview where you can change, you can toggle on and off of the formats that you want to serve. And so if you want to have in-page ads, you just toggle it on. If you want to have match content, these are recommendations from your website or ads within that match content, you can just turn that on. Similarly for anchor and vignette ads, you can just turn it on and off. And then another feedback that we got was that auto ads was placing too many ads or too little ads, and there was no way to control the ad density. So we made a feature. You can control how many ads you want to show. It's not going to be exactly the number, but you can say I want to have it max ad density or minimal ad density. And then at the top, you can see there's 5 auto ads being placed. This is going to change as you change the ad load. And page exclusions. So before this feature, we used to have this concept with URL groups. And so what URL groups used to do was that you would create a group of URLs, maybe a subdomain or subdirectory of your website, and you will say for that URL group, I want to turn on ABC formats. And the more you created more URL groups, the more complicated that it became and more difficult to manage. And so to reduce that problem, we created page exclusions. This is only if you want to serve no auto ads on your pages. And so if you want to serve no auto ads pages, for example, for your home page, you click on Manage, Add Exclusion, and you say, you put in the URL of the page that you want to exclude, and you say this page only or all pages under this section. And then you add, and auto ads is not going to be serving ads on your website on that specific URL or the sub directory of that URL. So formats as in placements are now optimized. What else is there to optimize? So this is the question that we thought about in the second half of 2019. So how can we help the publishers to automate more tasks that you're doing? And this goes down to the topic of optimization that we looked at before. And so what if we could give you personalized suggestions to you? You don't have to think about optimization. We're going to do the optimization for you. And these optimizations are going to be personalized for you. So maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. It's a little hidden in the Adsense UI, but there's a tab for automatic experiments, and it allows you to say, I want Google to run these experiments for me. And automatically apply these improvements if it is going to be beneficial for my site. So these are some of the hypothetical things that can happen in 2020. Maybe we think that ad balance is actually going to be beneficial for these websites. So what if we set the ad balance to be 60%? That means less ads on your site, but then it's going to create a better user experience. It's going to reduce the lower performing ads, and maybe users will click on the ads more. We set the ad balance to be 60%, we test it on your site specifically, and we get better results, we will turn it on. Another example would be, first example is, what if we add match content on your site? Maybe it's going to create more engagement, users are going to be visiting more of your pages, and so if we test this and we see that there's good benefits for your website, we will turn it on. Or another example is, what if you set anchor ads to be at the bottom instead of at the top? Would it benefit your users? Would it have high revenue for your website? And if it does, then we're going to turn it on. And the way we're going to know it is we're going to learn these, we're going to test this, we're going to run this A/B testing on your website. And if it has a good uplift, we're going to apply it. So these are going to be optimizations that are specifically for you. You may have seen the optimization cards like, oh, try match content or look at viewability. But these are more general suggestions, optimization suggestions that we made for the publishers. These suggestions in the future is going to be specifically for your website because we run these experiments on your behalf and we know for sure that it's going to be beneficial for your site. And lastly, I want to talk about feedback. And so all of these features that were changed for auto ads is based on the feedback that publishers gave. And so the feedback, there's a feedback button at the bottom. And if you click on it, you can take a screenshot of what kind of feature that you're talking about. And this is something that we look at on a monthly basis. And so if you send that feedback, you can write in Vietnamese and we will translate everything. But please keep sending those feedback because this is really what the product team bases their new features or prioritization on. And we do look at them, and you'll see the example of auto ads. The new features that were implemented were because of the feedback that came from this form. And lastly, I want to talk about, we are trying to automate as many tasks as possible because we want you to do what you love, which is creating content and reaching those users. And so please use AdSense. Keep using AdSense. We will try to automate as much tasks as possible. And yeah, thank you for listening. And thank you for listening to us talk for like 6 hours. So yeah, thank you very much.